Hello and welcome to another fine edition of GameSack. This week we're going to take a look at some notable overhead shooters, although some of you might call them vertical shooters.
Or some of you might call them vertical or overhead shmups. Kinda like that word.
Not this crap again.
Yes, that indeed. But also, Joe, I was wanting to say maybe this time you could go first, because I'm getting kind of sick of reviewing a game first, and I think it's your turn to really go.
Okay. I'll go first. Is that okay?
That's great, thank you. So what game do you want to do first?
I think I'll pick Soldier Blade for the TurboGrafx 16.
Ooh, Soldier Blade with music by Soulja Boy?
No.
Thank God.
Soldier Blade is an awesome game for the TurboGrafx 16. For some reason, I always screw up the title and call it Superstar Soldier. Since the games aren't numbered, I always get confused which Soldier game is which. You know, I guess I'm just kind of stupid that way. Anyway, you don't actually control a soldier, you control a spaceship. The graphics are really good and the music is outstanding. The game is pretty easy and it's hard to die because you only power down a level when you get hit. But once you do die, it's really tough because it's hard to get powered back up again. And suddenly the game is super hard.
The game has 2 speed settings for your ship. Ridiculously fast and obscenely fast. Definitely a Twitch shooter for sure.
The game has 2 modes. The normal game plays like you would expect a normal shooter would, but then there is a challenge mode which you can select either a 2 or a 5-minute game. Your goal here is simply to amass as many points as possible in the time allotted.
Oh, that sounds like a competition card. You know what? That would actually make a fun drinking game. Whoever gets the most points doesn't have to drink, and everybody else who loses has to drink like 5 beers or something.
That does sound pretty fun, but overall this is a simply fantastic game. You should pick it up. Alright, and that's Soldier Blade for you. Did you like that game, Dave?
Yeah, I did like Soldier Blade. I like it. I'm glad I own a copy of it.
Yeah.
So, do you know what game I want to do?
Well, yeah. I mean, we don't make these things up off the cuff right now. So, and I've already recorded the gameplay footage. Duh.
You're ruining our movie magic, Joe.
Yeah, I know.
So, but you probably know how awesome RayStorm is then.
Well, sure, yeah. Let's take a look at RayStorm.
RayStorm. Did this game look good in 1997 or what? You betcha it did. As I've said before, games like this from the 32-bit era didn't age very well. This one still holds a little aesthetic, but not too much.
The game is called Layer Section 2 in Japan and was released for both the PlayStation and the Saturn. We're looking at the Saturn version right here. It's the official sequel to one of my favorite vertical shooters of all time, Layer Section, or as it's called in the US, Galactic Attack. Both Galactic Attack and RayStorm work the same way in that your normal shot is pretty much useless, and your lock-on laser does most of the work. Actually, you know, I think I prefer Galactic Attack to RayStorm, but, you know, don't tell Dave, otherwise he might get mad.
Yeah, don't tell him. I'm standing right here, dumbass. The game has a plot which takes place in the year 2219. I'm fairly confident I will be dead by then, so I really don't care what's going to happen, just as long as nobody disturbs my corpse to use it for some sort of fuel or something.
You won't be in a position to care even if they do.
I know. The game is fairly colorful. Music is okay at best. Some good beats, nothing real memorable, and it fits the game just fine.
You can choose 2 different styles of music too, but in my opinion, both of them are pretty much unmemorable.
There are 2 choices of ships to choose from in the PlayStation version. The R-Gray one for beginners can lock on up to 8 different enemies at once and has a greater lock-on range. The R-Gray 2 has a shorter lock-on range but can lock on up to 16 enemies at once.
Oh yeah, well the Saturn version has 3 ships to choose from because they wanted the Saturn version to be so much better.
Oh, be quiet, Joe. They just wanted to try to make up for the extra slowdown and the dithered mesh they call transparency that's in this version. Each ship has different types of guns and missiles, but the same super attack. The super attack can be released after a meter is filled. There is an auto fire which allows weapons and missiles to fire with one button, and a manual setup where weapons and missiles are assigned to their own buttons. The game offers 2 modes of play, Arcade, which is a port of the arcade, and Extra, which gives enhanced visuals, new enemies, and some new bosses.
Enhanced my ass, maybe different colors, but the graphics are identical.
Anyways, RayStorm, for what it is still somewhat enjoyable. Not the best overhead shooter, but still no slouch. If you're good enough, you can beat the game in less than an hour.
Let's take a look at both the PlayStation and the Saturn versions together. Oh man, that just makes me want to play Galactic Attack again.
Oh, whatever, Joe.
It's a good game, man, it is.
Well, yeah, it is, but it's not, it's RayStorm. Anyways, it's your turn to choose a game, so what's it going to be?
How about the ever so popular Musha for the 16-bit Sega Genesis?
Oh, big surprise there.
M.u.s.h.a is one of those games that commands a really high price. Some people say it's overrated, but personally I think it's justified because I like the game very much. It's really fun. You control a giant mech dude floating around the screen. You can earn options and can change how they act with the A button. They are alive and will die for you if they get hit by an enemy. Good thing you can stock up on them. You power up your normal shot with the little P icons that are dropped from time to time. You can also get a secondary weapon as well that can be powered up. The graphics are pretty good for the most part, with memorable scenes such as the tiles that drop down to reveal the deep cave.
True, and that is awesome, but some of the graphics are kind of average and unmemorable, like this stage. Or maybe even this stage.
The music is also pretty good for the most part, with some jammin' tunes. It's mostly composed with rapid-fire chords though, so it really helps if you like speed metal.
Yeah, speed metal that sounds metallic. Oh, I love this stuff.
I've got to admit this game is pretty damn easy. Like Soldier Blade, it's tough to die because getting hit only powers you down. But once you die, it is a bit easier to power yourself back up, so it makes the game even easier than Soldier Blade. Still, it's a fantastic game and highly recommended if you can find it for a good price.
You know, Joe, M.u.s.h.a is an awesome game, but
Yeah, it is.
I still feel it's a little too expensive for what you get. I mean, it's probably more expensive than what you paid for it brand new.
Well, it is, but you can say that for a lot of games these days, my friend.
Well, we're not really friends, we're more just business acquaintances, but hey, do you mind if I borrow $10? I'm really kind of hungry and want to go to Casa Bonita after the show.
Can't believe you.
I'm hungry and I didn't get paid yet. Thank you.
Take it, enjoy your stupid burrito. Anyway, you gonna tell us what game we're gonna look at for our final shooter in today's episode?
Yes, I choose you, Raiden, by the most famous developer of all time, Seibu Kaihatsu.
Oh wow, they are amazing.
Raiden, released in the arcade in 1990 and then ported to pretty much every platform out there. The 16-bit ports had a few minor changes from the arcade and were renamed Raiden Trad as a result. Let's check out the version for the TurboGrafx-16 first. It's a fairly faithful port of the arcade. Some graphical changes and the music sounds a bit thinner with different instruments due to the different sound chip. There is also a bit of slowdown here and there. One thing that's annoying is that you don't come back to life immediately when you die.
That's right, the game stops and sets you back. The arcade I played didn't do this. I'm wondering why this version does.
It doesn't set you tremendously far back, but it's still not right where you died.
Also, this version stretches the game to fit the entire screen. As a result, things that were once perfectly round are now kind of egg-shaped.
What's wrong with egg shapes, Joe? I like eggs. The Genesis version is a fairly faithful port as well, though the graphics seem to use some bland colors.
This version of the game keeps the aspect ratio of the arcade intact and puts an information bar on the right.
The music is decent in this game, but the explosions sound rather bassy.
I agree, and it does get pretty annoying rather quickly.
This version also sets you back when you die. The Super Nintendo version also stretches the screen like the TurboGrafx version, but it is slightly choppy for some weird reason, but overall it's pretty faithful.
The music is extra reverby in this version, and the sound effects, well, they kind of suck.
But I do like how the game starts you right where you died though.
Yeah, agreed.
There's even an Atari Jaguar version of Raiden. It's pretty close to the arcade, but it has a giant shiny gold information bar on the right.
At least it keeps the arcade's aspect ratio.
You know, the sound is kind of weak for a supposed 64-bit system.
Do not make fun of the 64-bitness of the Jaguar.
Hey, look how many cows there are down there.
I think the immense, unequaled 64-bit power of the Jaguar allows for more cows on the ground.
At least the game starts you back right where you died, like a proper Raiden game should.
That's because it's 64-bit power.
And since we're talking about Atari, we shouldn't forget the ever so lovely Lynx version. This game requires you to hold the system vertically to play.
This version is kind of messed up. There's no music during gameplay, and the title screen even says that it's a release for the CES. What the hell? And it's pretty tough, too. It's really hard.
Yeah, and this version is pretty rare, so if you have a Lynx, you might as well buy it. The PlayStation version is called the Raiden Project and was a launch game for the system in the US and includes both Raiden 1 and 2, though we're just focusing on Raiden 1 in this episode. This version is pretty much exactly like the arcade, but with a ton more options.
Yeah, you can stretch the game to fit the entire screen like the TurboGrafx 16 version if you like things distorted, or you can rotate it to have a pixel-perfect version of the arcade, though the controls themselves don't rotate and the game warns you about rotating your TV.
You can even choose whether the game sets you back when you die or not. I like having a choice, and I wish more developers would offer as many choices as Seibu Kaihatsu did.
Just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Another option is to have the original or arranged music. I really like the arranged music here.
This is the definitive version of Raiden.
And let's check out as many versions of Raiden as we have, side by side. Wow, Dave, Raiden sure got a lot of love back in the day. I'll probably pick up Raiden 4 for the Xbox 360 because I hear it's pretty good.
Oh, that's a good idea, Joe, but I hope you get at least one playthrough before you get the Red Ring of Death. That's another show entirely. I got a question, though. What was your favorite game that we covered this week?
Gotta go with Galactic Attack, I think. That was just totally awesome. Pick it up for your Sega Saturn today.
You know what? We didn't really cover Galactic Attack, Joe. You just kind of wedged that in here.
Okay, well, I guess I'll have to go with the Raiden Project for the PlayStation then.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
Okay, and what was your favorite game that we covered this week?
Probably Musha.
What? I thought that game was too expensive.
It does, but I got a trophy wife, so it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
Anyways, the music in that game is awesome, and that's probably what pushed it over the top for me, so...
And I guess we'll be back next week when we pull more games out of that game sack.
Alright, Joe, I'm going to have you play my favoriteest vertical shmup ever.
What is it?
Well, it's called Divine Ceiling, and it is truly divine.
Oh my god, these graphics are destroying my eyeballs!
Mine too. Don't worry. There's some really good graphics between levels that are going to make your eyes all better. That's awesome, isn't it? I told you.